Hi everybody, welcome very much to the channel. I'm here to do a review of the match that finished 1 hour ago between Spain and Portugal for the World Cup 2026. It ended with a win of Spain, 1-0 over the national team of Portugal. I'm from Portugal, as you can see by the flag and by the shirt that I'm wearing, and I'm not very sad. Of course, I'm a bit sad because my national team lost, but the game was a good match to watch, more in the first half than the second half. And I'm here to talk about tactical analysis and to talk about what it means for us, the Portuguese, and for me, as a Portuguese, this World Cup in general, and the end of the man, the myth, the legend himself, Cristiano Ronaldo. So, first and foremost, why am I not very sad about this Portuguese elimination? Because it was the best match we had in the World Cup. Things started rather poorly versus Congo, 1-1 draw with one shot on target. Then the party was on versus Uzbekistan, where Portugal beat them 5-0. And one weird thing happened in that match. Wait, it didn't happen in the other matches, which is the fact that in that match, in the set pieces, I don't need my earpiece here, there was a lot of creativity and new plays made by Portugal that never happened before, that never happened again, I mean, in the other matches. We had the free kick where Ronaldo pretended to take it and then Nunes banged it in the net. There was the free kick over the wall for Ronaldo. Over the wall as in floating over the wall and Ronaldo picked it up in the box. There was like creativity and laboratory plays that never happened, that didn't happen for us, that didn't happen again throughout the competition, and that's just weird. I don't know why that would be the case, but that's weird. Moving on. Then there was Colombia, where Portugal had like two shots on target as well. 0-0 draw. Then there was Croatia, where Portugal really improved in the first half, but the second half was very chaotic. And even though Portugal won 2-1, only three shots on target with a penalty. And then came in Spain. Portugal loses 1-0 with a goal being scored right after the referee team announced that there would be 6 minutes of added time, and Portugal concedes immediately in like the 91 minute, maybe 90 minutes and 30 seconds, and Portugal ends the match with two or three shots on target. And before we go into any analysis, that's the problem of this Portuguese team. Very little shots on target. If we don't count the Uzbekistan match in the Congo, Colombia, Croatia, and Spain match, in 4 games, Portugal had around 8 shots on target. Not in each game, in the sum, in the combination of all those games, which for me it's insane. You can't have a team with quality. Portugal, I don't think it had the best team in the world, but you had perhaps the best midfield in the world. You had Ronaldo, Nuno Mendes, Bernardo Silva, Rafael Leão, o João Félix, very good players going forwards, right? 8 shots on target in 4 matches. I want you to think about this. If you watch football, if you know about football, this is really bad. Now we know teams that love to have possession and have low shots and whatnot, but this is, I think, worse. This is bad. 4 matches in the World Cup against Congo, Colombia, which, especially Colombia and Congo, which they did very well, but Portugal should at least get like 6 shots on target in each game. You know, it's not because Colombia then imagine they could get their own shot as well and even win the game. Imagine, but Portugal needs to create more. I think that was the problem of Portugal in this tournament. But now let's talk about the game versus Spain. It was a very good game. In the first half, especially, Portugal improved so much in this game. This was the best match for Portugal in the whole tournament. The press was working so well. Defensively, the team was very together. The counterattacks were more fluid, but still, things just didn't work out going forwards. I think that Ronaldo was not a problem, but it became a problem in the second half because he was not giving anything to the team. And calm down, Ronaldo fans. I'm a Ronaldo fan myself, but I'm realistic as well. He was not giving anything to the team. There was even a play where Pedro Neto was making a run through the middle, and then made a pass to Ronaldo, and Ronaldo was just looking forwards. He didn't even realize that the pass was made to him, and he almost ruined the counter attack there. And I think Roberto Martinez makes 5 subs and he doesn't bring Gonçalo Ramos in. Yes, it's true, there was a forced sub with Nuno Mendes coming out, injured, but still, like, you have to refresh your attack. He refreshed the wings with Conceição and Rafael Leão coming in, but Gonçalo Ramos scored the decider versus Croatia, and you don't bring him in versus Spain, especially in a match where Spain was being better, not by much, but they were being better. They had more shots on target, more possession, more touches in the opposition box, more passes in the final third. They had more everything. Diogo Costa once again saved Portugal from a big result against themselves, correct? And it's not like because Ronaldo sucks and because Ronaldo is bad. I think he did a alright game. It wasn't the worst game I've seen from Ronaldo, but he had to come out. He had to come out. And Bruno Fernandes as well. There was some times where he was doing something, but he was just not. Especially the passes into the final third were just not working. Like, really, really bad performance in that department. Defensively, it was better, but I think Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes had to come out. What were the subs of Martinez? Nuno Mendes injured, so Nelson Semedo, which impressed me on the left, to be honest. And then João Cancelo goes out for Diogo Dalot. Then Vitinha comes out for Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva coming in, I think it's good. But I think Bruno Fernandes should be coming out. And if you take Vitinha and you bring Bernardo, I think you need to bring a defensive midfielder. Because Portugal lost consistency. And that happened also versus Croatia. It was a bit different because you only got 2 midfielders, because then 2 strikers were at play in that part. But Bernardo is not a defensive midfielder, and he's not as good as João Neves or as Vitinha in controlling that part of the field. So I think a Ruben Neves or Samu Costa should come in. Or if you take Bruno for Bernardo, then you have Bernardo, Vitinha and João, and they play together like that. Then Rafael Leão came in for João Felix, which played very well. João Felix really impressed me. He did an amazing defensive work. I really, really enjoyed that part. And then Francisco Conceição came in. He did well. Just not awesome, right? And I think the problem for Portugal was the low amount of shots on target, and it was the fact that Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo played the full match, not being super physically available and not performing well. And that was a problem throughout the whole tournament, I believe. The midfield never really worked well, and I think in this game it was working much better. There was way more chemistry and way more permutation of the positions. Sometimes you would see Bruno go to the wings. Sometimes you would see Bruno go to the wings to have the team build up. Sometimes you would see Vitinha go to the wings. Sometimes João Neves. Sometimes you would see Bruno go forwards. Other times Vitinha or João. Sometimes you would see Bruno come deep to build. Sometimes Vitinha and João. So there was way more chemistry in the midfield, way more movement. I think the midfield worked alright in this match, but it lacked the connection to the attack. It lacked the connection to the front line. I think Ronaldo also creates problems in that department because he doesn't do good link-ups, he doesn't do good runs in behind of the defense, but I'm sure you already heard too much criticism about Ronaldo. I don't think it was the problem in this match, only late in the second half, like I told you, so let's skip that part. I'm pretty sure you're tired of hearing that. Now let's talk about Spain. I think Spain did a good match as well, always slightly better than Portugal. They had that very early chance where everybody thought it was offside. Even I thought it was offside, but it was Oyarzabal was actually onside because of the position of Renato Veiga, and he missed the shot. That in itself was 0.8 xg. Diogo Costa had no chance to save it. It was on the side. It went out of play, but it was a very good play from Spain. And I think Spain really improved when Ferran Lopes came to the left, but he started on the left. A lot of these movements, he would go to the midfield, and then he would make runs into the left side of the Portuguese defense inside the box. And since he went into the match, he started to destroy and go into those spaces of the Portuguese defense. And then slowly but surely, Spain grew more and more into the match. And then, actually, the goal for Spain comes from fall in the middle. Portuguese players are not paying attention. There is a vertical pass between the midfield and the defensive line of Portugal, and it's a combination with Merino and Lopes that came in from the bench, and then Ruben Dias comes out of the defense to press Lopes, and Merino makes a run in between, and then Lopes makes the pass that goes in the middle of the legs of Ruben Dias, and then great finish from Firmino. Shout out to them. So I think Portugal really lacked that extra defensive midfielder or more defensive midfielder, and the team lost balance with Vitinha coming out and Bernard coming in and Bruno still being in there. And just to finish talking about the match, I think the first half was way more active. I think in the second half, teams got a bit more nervous, both teams, and got a bit more afraid. The game was very choked in the second half, and to be honest, I think the goal could have shown up for both teams. Spain had more probability of that happening to them, and I think it's deserved. The win is deserved for Spain, totally. No hate here from for nuestros hermanos on this side of the Iberian Peninsula. They did play better. And I also think one thing that changed the match was the defensive dynamic over Lamine Yamal. He didn't have the best match. Nuno Mendes was getting him very, very well. Nelson Smith came in alright, but João Felix was helping a lot. So João Felix coming out for Rafael Leão also made that side more open of the Portuguese defense. So I think the subs for Roberto Martinez were a bit bad. Ronaldo had to come out for Ramos. Bruno Fernandes had to come out for whatever midfielder. I think João Felix, maybe he was really tired, but I think he should stay. Maybe Bruno comes out for Leão, Felix comes to the middle, then Leão comes on the left, and Felix helps, and while Leão stays up with Ronaldo to make a press. That could work as well, you know. But I think, even though we lost, it was the best match for Portugal in the World Cup. The team was playing the best that we have seen so far, and let's talk about it, and let's talk about it in tactical analysis. So here is how Portugal finished the match. Diogo Costa, Diogo Dalot, Ruben Dias, Renato Veiga, Nelson Semedo, Bernardo Silva, João Neves, Francisco Conceição, Bruno Fernandes, Rafael Leão, and Cristiano Ronaldo. One thing I really enjoyed in Portugal is the high press. It was working really well actually. And what was happening is one of the central backs actually would go up on the field, and then the other central back would stay behind, and the fullbacks would go like this. And this press was actually working really well. And sometimes the central back would even go here to press somebody. And sometimes it was Dias, other times it was Veiga. And I really enjoyed that. I also enjoyed how one of the midfielders was also doing the same. Sometimes we would see Vitinha come here, sometimes even go there together with Ronaldo to make the press. So I think the press was really well worked, and I really enjoyed that the detail of one of the central backs going forwards, and sometimes you would see this a lot with the wingers defending a bit more like this, and maybe not always like that, but the central back, but more like that, because the midfield would go there, and the central back would go there. I think the press worked really well. Portugal forced Spain to do a lot of long balls, and they were fighting for it, you know. The Portuguese team was really fighting for it, and I think it was, like I said earlier, the best match that Portugal performed in this World Cup. I just think Gonçalo Guedes and Tricão could have participated much more in the World Cup. Gonçalo Guedes came to the World Cup and played 0 minutes. Tricão barely played. I think he played on the Uzbekistan match. And I think Portugal could have done much better. Here on the tactical side, I think it was really good to see João Felix defending a lot on the left, coming into the middle and dropping in to help the runs of Yamal. And there was much more, like I said earlier, permutation of the midfields. Sometimes Portugal tried to play through the left, for an example, and Spain was doing a good press, and there was no that they couldn't connect with the winger. So sometimes Bruno would come here to help. Sometimes there would be Vitinha or João coming from further positions into that space. Something that was really happening in the other matches. And then when Bruno went here, the other midfielder would make a run up there, and there was much better combinations this time around. Pedro Neto was also very helpful defending. I know that's Conceição. I just want to be changing all the players right now. I also really enjoyed the performance of Diogo Costa once again, and I think the central backs were really, really solid. I think Ruben Dias didn't need to come out and press on the play of the goal. I think he could have stayed back, because I think it was Dalot and João Neves that were around there, around Merino and Fermin, not Fermin, and Ferran Lopes. So I don't think Ruben Dias had to go there, because that's what created the space for Merino to make the run through here, you know. I think Bernardo Silva came in alright. He looked very fresh. throughout the whole competition. He looked really, really tired, but he came in very aggressive. First play that he does in the match gets a yellow card, then he was the one making the fall here, and then he almost scored a goal, but then started beefing, so he's really, really aggressive. And there was, I think, some mental instability in the Portuguese team overall. I think that's why the midfield wasn't working correctly. I think that's why the team wasn't correctly throughout the whole tournament, and really, really improved in this last match. And now that we are eliminated, first, what are the reactions of the Portuguese? The Portuguese are hating this. They are hating Roberto Martinez. They are hating Ronaldo. They are hating Bruno Fernandes. They are hating Vitinha. And I think it's justified. Especially Ronaldo and Bruno, they played almost all matches without really justifying it. And a lot of people understand that Ronaldo was a bit of a cancer to this national team because he's taking the spot from others. And I think the environment, the ambiance in the locker room, in the team wasn't good. And it was perturbing the chemistry. And it was quite obvious that sometimes the chemistry wasn't there, the camaraderie wasn't there, the team spirit wasn't there. I think Ronaldo became a bit of a problem, more than a solution, more than an idol and an inspiration. And not for me, for the players, for his teammates. I think Ronaldo became a problem, you know? Roberto Martinez is not a bad manager, I actually enjoy him, but I'm not happy with his performance in this World Cup. Also, his communication skills were very, very poor. He kept insisting on how we use 23 players and we count with everybody, and then like Mateus Nunes played 3 minutes, Tricão played like 5 minutes, Gonçalo Ramos played like 10 minutes, Gonçalo Guedes doesn't play at all. You know what I'm saying? It was really weird. I don't think the team was well managed. I think against Uzbekistan, the team could have been way more refreshed. And I think the problem was also Portugal not topping their group. Because if Portugal topped their group, they would do the path of Colombia. So it would have been a game against Ghana, then a game against Switzerland. And look, if you want to win the World Cup, you don't really need to plan your path because you want to beat everybody and then win the competition. But if you can, you should avoid France, you should avoid Germany, you should avoid Spain, Argentina, because if you will meet them, it will be in the final, correct? So of course, imagine if Portugal beat Spain and then go forward. It would have been awesome, a lot of experience and confidence, and the next match would be against the winner of Belgium or USA. Also, totally doable for Portugal. But because Portugal came in second in a very bad game versus Colombia as well, we have to go through the hardest match, where we play the very hard match versus Croatia, and then a very hard match versus Spain. And I think it's time for Roberto Martinez to go. I think his worst problem is a lack of communication to the fans and to the team. I think he doesn't express well his ideas to the team. He doesn't inspire the team very well. I think Ronaldo also became a problem. Like I said, taking space away from others. I think players were uncomfortable around him, but not only Ronaldo. I think Bruno's ego was also a problem. He thought his place was guaranteed. He thought he was the best on the field, where he was not in almost every match. Oh, in every match, he wasn't the best, or close to it, you know? And I think it's a new dawn for Portugal. I think Ronaldo will retire. I will not be surprised if he goes for the Euro 2028. I don't want that to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised. And at the end of the day, I'm sad that Ronaldo never won a World Cup because he spent a lot of time with a team of Portugal that wasn't the best in the world, not even close to it. And now he has a great generation and he should support them instead of being the star. Instead of wanting to be the big guy, the big man on the stage, he should be the one setting up the stage. He should be the one telling others they can do it, for them to go forward. I'm here in the bench if needed, to come in, score a goal for y'all. I'm here with my experience, my expertise, telling you how to go in these moments, how to go about these teams that I faced before, how it is to be in the World Cup away from home, a month, more than a month altogether if you go to the final. Instead of supporting the team, he wanted to be the star, and I think he ended up bringing them down. And now with the new dawn of the Portuguese, there will be a new manager. I'm pretty sure Roberto Martinez will not stay after this. I don't think he wants to stay because I think he was also, especially in these later stages, he I felt some perturbance. He was perturbed by Ronaldo and Bruno and the egos in the national team. He didn't have space to exert his tactics, I believe, and I think he wasn't the right appointment. I think there were Portuguese managers that could do a better job, and I think the next Portuguese manager needs to be somebody with more willpower, with more fire. Because some people will say, oh, Portugal, they will never have a chance like this. This is the best team they will ever have. I think in 4 years, we will not have Ronaldo and Bruno. Maybe Ruben Dias maybe will not be there, but everybody's pretty young. I think everybody else, maybe Cancelo and Semedo will also not be there, but I think Portugal is going to get better. Our youngsters are better than ever. We have more youngsters to choose from. We have more players to choose from. And I think the Portuguese players kind of did a mistake like Brazilian players did, leaving Portugal too early to go to those big clubs where it ended up being a trap. Like Renato Sanches, João Félix, even Palhinha, I think they didn't make great moves, which hurt the development. And I think now they're respecting more the Portuguese league. They going like Afonso Moreira go to Lyon and not like this big club where they have space to grow. You know, and I think more young Portuguese players are staying in Braga, Famalicão, or going to these clubs that are not the biggest in their countries, but they're still big. They still have a good paycheck and they have space to grow. So I'm actually hyped for the future of the Portuguese team, where I think egos will not be a problem. I think we have more and better youth to take care of. And I think there will be more space for more players. I think in the future, Trincão will have more space. Players like Gedge, I'm not saying Gedge in general, but players like Gedge that go to the World Cup, and I think they'll have more space. And I think that the Portuguese Federation strategy will also change in the managers that they pick. And there will be no Ronaldo anymore, so there will be less pressure from him and less weirdness in the locker room. The Portugal run is over. Now I'm rooting for everybody but Argentina. I'm rooting mostly for France, Norway, Spain, and I was enjoying the USA team, but now with this whole Balogun situation, I don't want to root for them anymore. And maybe Colombia could also be interesting to see them going forward. They'll play Switzerland soon. Hopefully they beat Switzerland. And I still think it's been the best World Cup ever. I think Portugal could have went far. I enjoyed seeing the team grow, but they should have started like this and grow into a better team than what we see today. It was cool to see them close to full power today, but imagine if they started like this and then got even better game by game. Everybody, thank you for watching. The Portuguese are out, but the World Cup keeps going. I wish you the best thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, and a whole bunch of individuality, creativity, and responsibility as well. Keep it cool, keep it healthy.